Well, for more, we can cross to Cairo and speak to our correspondent, Edouard Cousin. Edouard, you've been watching the opening statements. What have we heard so far?
Well, what I got mostly from the opening statements is a great sense of urgency. Yeah? They were really focusing on the fact that, like, now we need to act. There were words like, this is a new area beginning. We begin like a new era now in fighting climate change. For instance, it was said we have an agreement, like the Paris Agreement. We have a plan adopted in Glasgow in the conference last year. And now we must work on acting, on implementing this plan, on delivering. The president of the COP27 is the Foreign Minister of Egypt, Sama Shukri. And he mentioned three main points for this conference. The first is like that we are currently facing a polarized world. He referred to the war in Ukraine, Russia invading Ukraine, and he called on countries to step over this polarization and come together and work together on this overarching issue. Other things he mentioned were the 100 billion that wealthier countries have pledged in climate help for developing nations. That 100 billion was pledged but has never materialized. So he called upon nations to actually come forward with this $100 billion per year for low-income nations. Third thing he said is that he thinks it's very important that there's some sort of paradigm shift from focusing on cutting carbon emissions to adaptation and mostly finance for adaptation. So that comes back to the loss and damage, that there will be finance available for mostly low-income countries to take measures to adapt to climate change.
And Egypt has been accused of trying to greenwash its human rights record. What is the country hoping to get out of this conference, both as a host and as a participant?
Yes, well, I think that this COP is very important for President Sisi, the president of Egypt. The news from Egypt the past years was mostly focusing on human rights violations, maybe economic crisis, and Sisi wants to put Egypt back on the map as a respectable, important player of the global level. So for him, I think this COP is really also important to improve his image on the international stage, improve the image of Egypt. On the other hand, Egypt is also has a serious interest in funding for adaptation. Like Egypt's Nile Delta, particularly, is very vulnerable for sea level rise. So Egypt itself is also definitely looking for funding to protect its shore from this sea level rise.
All right, Edouard Cousin reporting there with the latest from the COP27 in Cairo. Thank you very much for that.